Hi guys, and today I've got for you the Volkswagen ID.5 GTX style. What is an ID.5? It's a sort of coupe fastback version of an ID.4. What's an ID.4? It's a crossover SUV version, big brother to the ID.3, although it's based on the same MEB modular all-electric platform. Now this one's a 4Motion, so it's got all-wheel drive, plus it's the GTX with 300 horsepower, so I'm excited to give this a go. I'm on the Volkswagen driving day. I've got limited time with the car, so I'll put facts and figures on the screen, but we will take a look at the car, we'll look around it, we'll look at the interior, we'll look at the practicality, and then of course, I can't wait, we'll take it for a drive. So as you can see, it's similar to the ID.4 at the front, but when you move to the side, you can actually see the sloping rear roof and the spoiler on the back, which gives it that sporting look. A lot of great detail on this car. So it's got this sort of honeycomb blocky rear tail lights, and then this light bar that goes right across the back of the car, which looks very cool. The black and white Volkswagen badge is becoming iconic of the ID range. You've got that in the wheels as well, and quite sort of petal format wheels I think on this car. They look pretty cool. And then the front, you've got this quite intricate grille design, air intake design on here. Again, that one piece that goes all the way across with the black and white badge, but again the motif, which is very similar to the lights that they have on the ID.3, also replicated on this car. Right, let's look at the boot space. So let's check out the boot. My first instinct was to do this, because that's how you open the boot on the ID.3, but no, there's a button down here, and you just release it. Not powered. I was expecting it to be powered, but it's not. Quite a big boot actually. It's got a double floor thing arrangement that goes on, although not a deep cavity underneath, but enough to sort of hide the cables and any other sort of bags and things that you might want to put down there. It's got the netting that will fit across these hooks on every side, plus some straps and light, power supply there, light here as well, and again these hooks as well to hold your bags and your takeaway. Split folding seats with a ski hatch thing as well, not slope. You ain't got the slope in here, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let's check out the rear cabin. Okay, my first time in the back of the car. The driver's seat is set for my driving position, and I have got tons of room. Look at all of that knee space right there. 6'2" with long legs, so that's not an issue. Feet, no problem at all, but even if I want to stretch out a little bit of wiggle room under there. Of course, it's got a high floor, but no issue whatsoever. This digs into my back, but that can go up. That's not a problem. Headroom, no issue. Despite the sloping roof, you would have thought that might be an issue, but it isn't. Nice bit of red stitching on here. Nice, interesting. The seats in here, the upholstery is quite different to the way that they've done it on the ID.3, but this arrangement is quite similar. So again, there's this hatch and there's your cup holders, so that all works really well. There's just the pockets down here. It doesn't have the two twin pockets that the ID.3 has there, but it does have the armrest. It has vents which are quite low, but I guess they should be effective enough. And then they have the two USB-C there as well. I guess that lights up. There must be some controls in there. Maybe heated seats. That would be interesting. I think it's a temperature thing. Actually. Oh, interesting. It's got the blue sort of trim here, soft trim there, with the red stitching on it. Despite the fact that there isn't any blue. Oh, it's on the front doors as well. Interesting that. Anyway, nice skylight is open. Lots of light in here, so that's quite good. Time to get in the front, see what that's like. So here we are in the front of the ID.5 GTX, so check it out. And those of you that have seen the interior of the Volkswagen ID.3 will go, oh, this is very similar. It's got that same pod that's mounted onto the steering wheel, as you can see. And the steering is, oh, interesting. It's not reach adjustable. Oh, it is. Okay, yeah, no, it is reach adjustable. It's just that you've got to put a little bit of effort into it. There you go. But yeah, the pod is attached to the steering column. The controls are very similar to what you see, except that the light buttons have been moved from here, where they are on the ID.3, to here, where they're sort of a bit more logical, a bit more the way that conventional, the way that they normally are. The buttons here are pretty similar, and then you got the floating screen, which I think is bigger on here, but very interesting. Again, the layout here again is very, very similar to the ID.3. It just feels like an ID.3 but slightly larger. That's basically how it feels. But there you go, very nice soft touch there. That's plastic, that's piano black. Glove box is a bit bigger, definitely bigger glove box on here. You don't have the net pocket there, but you do have this bit. You have the cup holders, you have the quite a deep compartment. I think you got the wireless chargers down there, and then you've got the adjustable armrests. Over here you've got a deep and big door bins as well, but otherwise all pretty straightforward. And of course you got the big sunroof as well. This car, basically 460 Newton meters of torque, capable of 0 to 62 miles per hour acceleration in 6.3 seconds and 111 miles per hour. In this spec, this car will cost you just under £56,000. Right, time to give it a go. Okay, so let's have that armrest. There you go.
Please now, drive to the route shown.
As mentioned, I am on a media driving day, and because of that, she is going to interrupt us every now and then because I'm following a set route. By the way, I forgot to mention 300-mile range on this car. It's showing me 79% charge at the moment with 219 miles. So this is sort of a little bit more real world by comparison. That's what always happens with EVs. You get the claim mileage range
for 500 yards,
and then you get the actual mileage range. Huge mirrors on this thing, which is nice. That's handy. Smallish mirror, but then it's a small window out the back, and the window itself is bisected by that spoiler, which it looks kind of cool. But I don't know how practical it is. I'm following another one of these up ahead, so I can see that it's a striking looking car. It looks quite nice actually. And one thing that I found quite interesting is that the seat adjustments are manual on this one, even though on the ID.3, the one I drove
anyway, turn right onto the B4100.
They were powered, but on here they're actually manual. Now I'm guessing this has got similar setup. Now again, these are rear wheel. No, this is all wheel drive actually. This one. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Wow, that's in normal mode as well. Let's actually check what mode we are in, and let's go into sports mode. Oh wow, and then you get kind of a noise as well, which is kind of like it's kind of like a sci-fi sort of noise. There's a kind of eerie sort of whistling sound there that's going on. But yeah, this has got good performance. It really goes. You get a sense of rear-wheel driveness as we're pulling out of that exit there. Just a slight bit of thing, but I think that because of the full motion, eventually it kind of transitioned very quickly into all-wheel drive mode. So this will be interesting to try this car, because this is basically a family car, but with very sporty pretensions, with the sort of horsepower that we're talking about. Oh man, I tell you what, as with a lot of these electric cars and not all electric cars do this, not all electric cars focus on the outright performance aspect of what they offer, but where there are the cars that do, and I think this feels a little bit like one of them. You know, the acceleration is very intoxicating. You can't help that. You know, every opportunity you get, you'll find yourself doing that, and every time you do that, you'll see your range dipping a little bit, but hey ho, you know, you gotta live a little, right? So I have just driven the ID.3. I've literally jumped out of the ID.3 into this car. That review should already be on my channel. Go check it out. And the interesting thing is that, you know, there's a lot of familiarity, obviously, immediately. And in that car, I felt like I was sitting tall. But in this car, I'm feeling a little bit taller still. So yeah, I mean, you can certainly feel that this is a little bit more elevated than that one was.
Please follow the B4031 for 3 miles.
But it's kind of what you would expect, considering that we are in an SUV style vehicle. So we've got it in the sports mode. Now I've noticed interestingly that we've got traction mode. This is the difference, because I guess the traction, to switch off the traction is for all-wheel drive, for when you're actually off-roading and you don't need the traction control to be working, so you can actually switch that off. You go into individual. We didn't explore this last time with the ID.3, but you know, you can actually set it up. There is a way where you can set up the different things, but I think I'll leave it in sports for now. Now Now the other thing that I mentioned in the other one was the B mode. Okay, so we have a little bit more one pedal kind of driving mode here. It's not avert, it's not literally like a lift off and it completely comes to a halt, but you start to get a little bit, when you go into the B mode, you start to get a little bit more of that deceleration, and I guess a little bit more regen to charge up the batteries. The other thing I'm noticing is that there's no heads-up display in this one, but having said that, I mean, the display, the visuals on the little pod in front of you are very clear, and I got navigation. It's very basic. You've got navigation, you got speed, you got the speed limit that's in the area, and you've got your driver assistance stuff there, which are basically off at the moment, so that's a good thing. Other than that, there's not much more information you need apart from what mode you're in, and I'm actually going to go back into drive mode. Now the ride on this one is a little bit more fidgety than, again, the ID.3. I can't help comparing it to the ID.3 because I've just jumped out of that car, but you can certainly feel that there's a little bit more going on with the suspension on this car, whereas the ID.3 sort of worked very hard to disguise anything that was going on underneath it. This one you do get quite a bit of transmission through the floor and through the suspension. You can feel what's going on a little bit. No bad thing. It's not in any way harsh or anything like that. It's just that it's there. It's about what you'd expect. There is maybe a little bit more of that rigidity that I often find in electrified cars that transmit through into this one. I don't know why that is. Maybe just because it's a bigger platform or something, but you know, it's not hugely different. It's very quiet. It's very refined. The quality is very apparent. Again, you get that VW quality with this car that you've come to expect, and I think that they've done a pretty good job with it. It's a little bit more serious in this car. I think that they have, although it's a similar layout, similar design, similar features, but I think they've tried to make this one a little bit more grown up than the ID.3. I think that's the idea there. So, which I guess again makes sense, doesn't it, really? Good performance. The ride, like I said, the speed is not bad. Also the handling, I mean, it stays quite flat. You know, the steering response, again, there's not much steering feel, but the steering is weighted very nicely, and it responds just as you would expect it to respond, so it gives you the sort of feel that you would expect it to give you. So we're in some pretty tiny roads now. We're in a very small village, and again, you know,
now take the second right
start
and turn right again immediately and continue to follow Marketplace.
You start to become aware of its size a little bit, but having said that, it's quite manageable. You can see the extremities of the front of the car, so it's not too much of a problem, and you know, it's fairly agile
right
considering what it is. I have to say that A-pillar is quite thick in this car, so just cars pulling out from junctions and stuff like that, you just have to be wary of. They have a little tiny window here on the door as well, but I think you just have to be aware of what's going on in that corner so that you can keep an eye out. But otherwise, not too much of a problem. Again, visibility to the rear, a little bit limited, but the huge mirrors on the side mirrors actually really help. So driving in comfort there, and I don't know if the ride is adaptive ride, but you know, it just feels a little bit more calmer in that mode. I'm not going to go back into sports mode. I mean, it's hard to say really if there is a difference, but oh my god, the acceleration. And the noise that you get is literally like, you know, warp speed now, Mr. Sulu, and literally, woo, you know, that's kind of what you get, you know, that's the sort of sensation as well that you get. And for a big thing, I mean, you know, it's not that big, but I mean, you know, for something that's quite chunky and high up, it certainly picks up its skirts and off it goes, sort of thing. Quite a bit of road roar again from the car, but no wind noise or anything like that. And again, the stereo, if the stereo is anything like the one on the ID.3, then you know, you'll turn that on, and then the other noise won't really matter. Actually, I just tried the stereo, and it's got quite a deep bassy sound to it, and surround sound sort of scenario. It's very, very good. It's this kind of thing that you want, really. I'm not seeing a huge dip in range, despite a generous use of the right throttle pedal, let's say. So again, there it's doing quite well, and I'm in sports mode. So I guess if I put it into economy mode, let's try that. I will gain. So it's 212. It's 212 now in economy mode, and go into sports mode, and it's 2.8. So actually, not a huge amount of difference really. The braking is pretty linear, although you know, again, it does that thing where you need to sort of just go, I think what's happening here is that because of the regen system, it's probably using part regen and part actual braking. So at some point, there's a kind of transition to mechanical braking rather than regen. So what do we think about the ID.5, particularly this GTX? Do you need the GTX full motion with the substantial horsepower. No, you probably don't actually, because otherwise you'll be addicted to the acceleration and then you'll just run out of juice very, very quickly. That's probably what's going to happen. Do you need the ID.5 over the ID.4? Again, probably not. The ID.4 is probably the more practical car, I would have to say. However, I have to say, especially following another one of these up ahead, this is the prettier car. Definitely the sloping roof makes quite a bit of difference to this profile, and it just makes it look nicer, I think, than the ID.4. So if it was me, I'd probably go for this one. But you know, you should try them out for size. So overall, I think really, really good. It's not a cheap car. I mean, we're talking £56,000. You know, that's a lot of money. But again, having said that, it's about on par for this size of electric car. I mean, you're talking like, you know, the Mustang Mach-E and stuff like that. So in that sense, you know, it's pretty much on par, about the same size, about the same sort of money. I think, you know, have a look at these sort of segment of cars. If the VW badge is something that appeals to you, then go for this. But also at the same time, you know, it's practical, it's quick, it handles well, and it gives you the reassurance of all-wheel drive full motion as well when you need it. So overall, thumbs up. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to continue to enjoy it until I get back to base. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.